finally here. 2023 NFL season, a season preview. This is going to be an abbreviated version. This is not going to be the in-depth version that I was hoping to do. But let's get into it. And I think the place to start with is it's a different league. It's a new league now that Tom Brady's not here. His career is over as far as we know. And it's Patrick Mahomes' league. He's won 2 Super Bowl MVPs. He's won 2 regular season MVPs. The AFC. I mean, look at the quarterbacks we have in the AFC. You have Mahomes, Allen, Burrow. You add in an all-time great, a sure Hall of Famer, a 4-time MVP in Aaron Rodgers. Lamar Jackson, a former MVP. Justin Herbert, and another young, rising quarterback such as Trevor Lawrence. And can Russell Wilson, a 9-time Pro Bowler, can he have a turnaround year? That's a lot of talent right there. A lot of talent. And the AFC is clearly a better and more competitive league. That is a tough conference. And then you go over to the NFC and you look at the quarterbacks. You have Jalen Hurts. And then the question is, after Jalen Hurts, who's the next best quarterback? Because you took Rodgers and Wilson out of the NFC. And if Dak Prescott's the next best quarterback, it's not a good conference. I would probably argue that perhaps Kirk Cousins is the second best quarterback in the NFC. You have big-time teams in the AFC. Who are the favorites in each conference? We're not going to look at every single team in depth here. We're just not. But rightfully so. Let's start with the AFC West. The AFC West is going to be very competitive as far as who's going to be in which place after the Chiefs. Now, I'm clearly saying the Chiefs are the favorite in the division. As long as you have Mahomes and Kelsey, they're going to be a handful. And I'm going to assume that they're going to work out a deal with Chris Jones by the time I have this up on our channel. Maybe he'll already be signed. The Chiefs are number 1. I like the Chargers number 2. They have so much talent on both sides of the ball. Can they compete with the Chiefs for the division crown? I'm going to say no, they're not quite there, but they should be a wild card team. They're one of my wild card teams, the Chargers. And Herbert's so impressive. He's got a good O-line. He's got weapons. And you'd think if they have a season with Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack together, they won't have any issue getting to the quarterback. They got Derwin James. What's holding them back? I would say head coach is holding them back. That's the problem with the Chargers. Then the Broncos. I think the Broncos end up 3rd. They will be better. They will be coached better. I expect Russell Wilson to be better this season. My problem is I think they have an average roster. Talent-wise, it's just an average roster, and that's not going to be good enough. Finally, the Raiders. And I'm going to be fascinated by the whole Jimmy Garoppolo situation and Jimmy Garoppolo with the Raiders. What is Jimmy Garoppolo going to do when he doesn't have an elite team around him, when he doesn't have a great defense backing him up? What's on defense? Max Crosby. Got anything else besides that? And Chandler Jones? What's going on there? I don't know. He has players on offense. He's got Adams. He's got Renfro, the rookie tight end Mayer, and then there's Josh Jacobs. But without a great defense, I'm telling you, the Raiders, probably best case scenario in this division, go 1-5. You are losing both games against Mahomes with Garoppolo, You're going to lose both games against Herbert, and you're going to hope for a split against the Broncos. Let's go over to the East, and we'll go north to south. The East is going to be another tough division. And who's going to win it? I don't know if the Bills are going to win this division, and some people call me crazy saying, oh, you're just on the Jets bandwagon. Well, I am a big Aaron Rodgers fan, and he is one of the all-time great throwers of the great throwers of the ball, and one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, at least regular season. Don't forget, he has won a Super Bowl and a Super Bowl MVP. It's been a long time now, but he has done it. I think he's going to be very motivated, and he has talent on offense. There's talent on defense. It's one of the more well-rounded teams in the AFC. It really is. I don't think they're getting enough credit here, the Jets. I think they're going to put up a serious fight against the Bills. I'm not the biggest Bills fan. I think, of course, they're a playoff team, but Josh Allen, from an athletic standpoint, is as good as it gets. He's a better version of Cam Newton. Yet I think there is certainly room for improvement with Allen, and I want to see it. I mean, he's certainly a better thrower than someone like Lamar Jackson. I'm not comparing him to that. I mean, he's got one of the best arms. He probably has the best arm in the NFL. And he's a thrower first, not a runner. He does have weapons, and my concern is the defensive side of the ball. Von Miller's going to miss some time, and everyone just acts like it's just a slam dunk that Von Miller is going to be back to being prime Von Miller. He's 34 years old, coming off an ACL. And he's your number one pass rusher. I know you got Ed Oliver. I know you got Rousseau. You have some other guys there, so it's not all him, but he is supposed to be the guy. I am actually going to pick the Jets to win the division. I will pick the Jets 1, and I'm going to say the Bills are number 2, and the Dolphins are in the conversation for number 3. I think they are number 3, but they're in the conversation for being a wild card team. But can Tua stay healthy? Right? With all these teams, you can say, oh, it comes down to health, right? But considering what he went through last season, I want to see him stay healthy. They have the talent to be dynamic and explosive, and we saw it last year on offense, and then his health went downhill. Defense, they got better on defense with bringing Jalen Ramsey, but unfortunately he's going to miss most of the regular season. I do like the Dolphins, and I do like McDaniels. The Patriots, I expect them to be last place. And I don't really think there's pressure on Bill Belichick. I think he would get one more season after this to turn things around. And can Mac Jones be more the Mac Jones from 2021 again? Right? That's the concern with the Patriots. And, you know, I think the criticism of Belichick that he just can't do it without Tom Brady, that's people who really haven't done their homework, who don't know their history. As a head coach, sure, I'll give you that. As a head coach, he hasn't done it without Brady. But just to say he's nothing without Tom Brady, he won 2 Super Bowls as the defensive coordinator with the New York Giants. It was 86 and 90. That's a little history lesson. And he was absolutely brilliant in 1990 as a defensive coordinator. I mean, go back and watch the conference championship game against the 49ers, and then they went against the Bills offense and limited them and contained both of those great offenses. Okay, so let's go to the North. The AFC is deep. I could see all four of these teams potentially making it to the playoffs. Number one would be the Bengals, and I am picking the Bengals possibly to be right there at the Chiefs for the top seed in the AFC. I consider Joe Burrow the second best quarterback in football right now. For my rankings, I go Mahomes 1, Burrow 2, Allen 3. I go Rodgers 4, and then Jalen Hurts. Those are my top 5 quarterbacks. When you're just talking about get it done from the pocket and being a traditional passer, it's not that he can't work outside of the pocket, but give me the traditional quarterback any day of the week who can pick you apart, who's a leader, who has the intangibles, who's accurate, who's smart. Joe Burrow checks all those boxes. My concern with the Bengals is, did they get better enough in the trenches? They had changes in the secondary. They've got depth, of course, at wide receiver. They have plenty in offense, but where they've fallen short is protecting Burrow and then getting to the quarterback. They're very well coached. Excuse me. Very well coached, disciplined on defense. They play smart, but did they have enough difference makers? Do they have enough difference makers on defense against Patrick Mahomes at the end of the season? I think that's what it comes down to in the AFC. But I like them to finish first and to win the division and possibly get that home field advantage. I think they're that good. But they're going to have a heck of a time getting that top seed too. I think just with the Chiefs aren't going to have, cakewalk through their division. There are no easy games for the Chiefs. But I still like the Chiefs as the number one seed because I believe the Bengals have the harder division. The Ravens, can Lamar Jackson stay healthy? Can Lamar Jackson win games with his arm when he has to? We can look at the highlight reels all we want, and they're as impressive as they can be, him running. But can he drop back and win a game throwing the football in January, possibly February? I don't believe so, not yet. We'll see if he can prove us wrong. Are they a playoff team? I say so. Yes, they are a playoff team. I am tired of all the Odell Beckham Jr. talk. I mean, he is years removed from being a number one receiver. Does he make the Ravens offense better? Sure, he will. This is a talented roster, but can Lamar Jackson go up against Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, Rodgers? They're going to be a disadvantage with all those teams. With that said, they're very well coached by Harbaugh, and they should make the playoffs. Next up is the Browns. Good roster. Another team with a good roster, but then what are we getting at quarterback? What are we getting from Deshaun Watson? Will he return to form? That's the question. You have Deshaun Watson, and on defense, you have Myles Garrett, who's about as good as it gets and as consistent as it gets at defensive end, one of the very best pass rushers in football. They have Nick Chubb on offense. They got Amari Cooper. I like the team. And then they brought in Zadarius Smith on the other side of Myles Garrett. They could possibly be a playoff team. But it comes back down to quarterback again. I feel like there are two big ifs. The Ravens and the Browns could both be very good. We have to see it. I would still put the Ravens ahead of them. And then there's the Steelers. They had a very good preseason, but again, can we be honest? it's the preseason. Kenny Pickett looked noticeably better. They have talent at receiver with Pickens. They've got Allen Robinson. Najee Harris, I think, is a little overrated if you ask me. And he's good, but he doesn't fall under the category of great. Defense, well, you start with TJ Watt. Obviously missed time last year, but when healthy, still arguably the best defensive player in football. Alex Highsmith really stepped up last year and had a big season. So you got him on the other side of TJ Watt. He had 14.5 sacks last year. And then you have Fitzpatrick in the secondary. You have the rookie Joey Porter Jr. They could potentially sneak in and get the 7th spot in the AFC. We'll see. And of course, you have to say they're well coached as well. I mean, Mike Tomlin has the reputation he has for a reason. He wins. He wins. So you actually have 3 very good divisions right there, with the West, the East, the North. The weak division is clearly the South. I like the Jaguars again. I don't like any of the other teams in the South. Trevor Lawrence, he's the only one to me that great 2021 draft we all thought was a great 2021 quarterback draft. He took some big steps forward. They got to the playoffs last year. They won a playoff game, and they lost to the Chiefs. I mean, what else could you have really wanted last year? They've made a point to get better up front on both sides of the ball on defense. We'll see what they can do on defense. But I like how the roster is coming together, and I think Peterson's he's a good coach. He's a coach that's won a Super Bowl. Well, I like the Jaguars to continue to improve. I don't see them getting farther in the playoffs because the AFC is that good, but they're really going in the right direction. The Titans, I think the Titans are going down. Derrick Henry's at the end of his career. Quarterback's still a problem. They don't have any immediate fix at quarterback for the Titans. The Texans and the Colts both have rookie quarterbacks who are not going to dramatically change the team right away. So there's only one team that is going to come out of the South. I mean, they still have Tannehill quarterback, the Titans. They've got Malik Willis, and they have the rookie as well. So we'll see if Tannehill makes it through the season. But if I'm just going to pick playoff teams in the AFC, I'm going Chiefs, Bengals, Jets, Jaguars. My wild cards are the Bills, Ravens, Chargers, Dolphins if they stay healthy. I think, again, every team in the North has a chance. Let's go with the NFC. And I think the NFC is different than the AFC. I think the AFC, you could have several teams come out of the AFC and get to the Super Bowl. I see 4 teams actually in the AFC. Chiefs, Bengals, Bills, and Jets, who could represent the AFC. In the NFC, I consider it a 2-team race. The same 2 teams as last year. The Eagles and the 49ers are significantly better than the rest of the pack. They're the best and most well-rounded teams. I think they are the two most talented teams in football. And that's the lesson we learned. As talented as they are, the position of quarterback is so valuable that if you have the best quarterback in the game, that's still enough to trump the better all-around roster and a team that has a better defense, even if they have a good quarterback like Jalen Hurts. It's a different league. It's not a league where you can win without a top 10 quarterback unless everything goes right. Unless you have someone who's just on fire, like I would think of Joe Flacco in 2012. That's the exception. It can happen, but it's very rare. But let's start with the East, and then I'll pick some playoff teams, and then we will do the Week 1 picks. I like Jalen Hurts. He is a top 5 quarterback for me. I have him as my number 5 quarterback in the league, the best quarterback in the NFC. But the question a lot of people have asked is, can he do it again? I think so. I think he has the talent. He's got the arm. He can throw first. And he was so impressive in that Super Bowl. What else do you want him to do? I mean, he had the one mistake, which was the fumble. It was costly. But as a thrower and as a runner, he's got my stamp of approval. He's got 2 number 1 receivers. I have to say this in fairness, though. He has a heck of a roster around him. I mean, there is no doubt the Eagles have a roster that almost every other team in the NFL is envious of. Let's just look at the players around him. He's got a good offensive line. Let's start there. Lane Johnson at right tackle. And then at left tackle, Jordan Mailata. I mean, he's gigantic. I mean, he's near 370 pounds. I mean, he's a mountain there. And then he really has 2 legitimate number 1 receivers in A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. Dallas Goedert is, I would say, top 5 receiving tight end in the league. They add DeAndre Swift at running back. And he is talented. He's talented. Then they have Rashad Penny they brought in as another running back, more of the bruising type of running back. So we'll see how that works out at running back. But, if I was them, though, I would not run him as much on those 4th and shorts. It's been very effective, and he is strong. But do you want to continue putting your quarterback at risk like that? I don't know. And, of course, Jason Kelce at center. Don't want to miss talking about him. Defensive line. They lost Hargrave, but then they get a super talented defensive tackle with great strength like Jalen Carter. They still have career players who are from the last Super Bowl. Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox. They have Josh Sweat. They have a good secondary, I still say. Oh, and don't forget about Hassan Reddick. I mean, they have pass rushers to come, and they have more depth there to get at your quarterback than anyone else in the league. If there's any weakness, I think they're average at best at linebacker. But linebacker's not that important these days. It isn't in the NFL. It's all about protecting your quarterback so he can throw and then getting to the quarterback. That's what it's about. That's why teams draft the way they do. It's about the quarterback, tackle, and your edge rusher. And then you take care of your other needs from there. Those are the priorities. Okay, the Cowboys. And I'm going to keep it short on the Cowboys because they are not the most important team. As a 49er fan, I took extra delight the last 2 seasons in defeating the Cowboys and eliminating the Cowboys. Dak Prescott, a slightly above average quarterback. Ezekiel Elliott's finally gone. Pollard's the number one. They have a good O-line. I feel that a lot of people are overly excited about the moves they made. Okay, they brought Brandin Cooks in to go along with CeeDee Lamb. Okay. They're not as good at tight end as they were a year ago. Micah Parsons is all that. I'm not going to say he isn't. He is arguably the best defender in the league. He's the most unique player, considering he plays at edge. He's played at kind of that nickel linebacker as well, and he's supposed to be playing mainly as a defensive end this year. That's what we've been told. And they brought in Stephon Gilmore. Again, how good can he be still at this point? He is a 33-year-old corner. We'll see how he does. So if the Cowboys are anything, they're slightly better. But are they better enough to overtake the Eagles and defeat the 49ers? I don't think so. Are they a playoff team? Absolutely. They should be a wild card team. They should be number 2 in the East. Then the Giants. I think the Giants are closer to the Cowboys than the Cowboys are to the Eagles. And I'm wondering about how good Daniel Jones will be this year. That's a big question mark. It was a good year for the Giants, but how good will Daniel Jones be? How good will Saquon Barkley be again? He's at that age where, you're 25, 26 at running back, and he put up a lot of yards, but he didn't have a great average last year. I really do like the addition of Darren Waller. They needed more of a talented, and they needed a more talented target, and you got it in him. He's not a good blocker, but as long as he's healthy, he is one of the very best receiving tight ends in football and should certainly help Daniel Jones. On defense, Leonard Williams is good. Thibodeau had some moments last year, but overall I think he had a disappointing rookie season. You can see the talent. It just didn't end up in producing very many sacks last year. We'll see if that changes this year. The Giants, I think, are back to where they would be last year. I see them as a 6th or a 7th seed in the NFC. And the Commanders, they should be a little better than last year. Can Chase Young stay healthy? I mean, we're already talking about him missing week 1 again. I mean, I love him again as an athlete and as a talented young player, but he's missed significant time. Payne is good. Allen is good. Sweat's good. If they can keep that front four together, they have something on defense. There's no doubt. There's tons of talent there. I mean, I'd say that's in the conversation and debate for best front fours in the NFL. But Sam Howell's number 1 on their depth chart at quarterback. Okay. We'll see how that turns out. But I see them clearly as a 4th team in the division. Then let's go over to the West. 49ers. They have the most talented roster in the NFL. And I think if you've looked over the last, say, 4 seasons, they have had the most talented roster. But unfortunately for the 49ers, health's been a problem at times. And as talented as they've been, quarterback has been the problem. Jimmy Garoppolo, Trey Lance, Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy hasn't lost a game, right, to this point, if you're not counting the game he got injured in the conference championship game. But it's still a small sample size. It isn't so small that you can't have takeaways and evaluate him. He did win 2 playoff games. He wasn't spectacular, But for a rookie, he didn't lose the games, and he made some plays. It wasn't he was only a game manager. And I feel like it's in some ways it's similar to Jalen Hurts. As good as he looked, if he didn't have as talented of a roster around him, how good would he be though? And Kyle Shanahan, while he's not a great head coach, is an excellent offensive coordinator. I think he's a good head coach. He's an excellent offensive coordinator, except he doesn't protect his quarterbacks. That's a whole other thing, and I know that's a Grant Cohn thing, which I totally agree with him on that. They've got the best left tackle in football in Trent Williams. George Kittle, when he's healthy, I'd say is the second best tight end in football to Travis Kelce, when he's healthy. Deebo Samuel, will he have a bounce back year this year? Brandon Ayuk is the best receiver on the roster and is more consistent. And they're very deep at running back. Christian McCaffrey is better than I thought he was. I thought he was good, and when he was on that 49er roster, he took him to another level, and he was the best weapon on that offense, on a very talented offense with talented players. He was the guy, and they have depth at running back, a lot of depth at running back. Defense, well, Nick Bosa was just signed to his extension today. You can call him the best defensive player in football. You won't get an argument out of me. I love Bosa. But if you don't say he's the best defensive player, what is he, the second best, the third best? I mean, I'd say the top three. Well, let's say top four. And it always comes down to, well, who's healthy? But let's just go over the last couple of years. Donald, Watt, TJ, Bosa, and Parsons. Those are your four best defensive players in football right there. You put them in whatever order you want. They bring in Hargrave next to him, Eric Armstead, Drake Jackson. That's one of the best front fours, but there's not much depth behind them. Fred Warner, the best off-ball, traditional middle linebacker in football. Extremely smart. Secondary is good, but if there's a weakness, they're close. They're the one unit that's more close to average. The defensive line can be excellent. The linebackers are, between Warner and Greenlaw, among the very best. Maybe the best duo in the NFL. But special teams is a problem with the 49ers. I haven't talked about special teams at all right now with any of these teams. But again, being a 49er guy, I'll tell you special teams is a problem. Then, the Seahawks. And the Seahawks are getting better. And the Seahawks at times challenge the 49ers. Well, they challenged them in the playoffs last year. They did. We talked about is what Brock Purdy done sustainable. I asked the same question with Geno Smith. They had a good draft. I expect them to be in the playoffs again. They're very well coached by Pete Carroll. He's like one of those guys, as a 49er fan, you have to love to hate. I just don't know. And they have excellent receivers. They are 3 deep at receiver. They've gotten a little better on defense, but they still lack that edge rusher. And that's a big thing in the NFL right now. You got to get to the quarterback. And I don't know if the Seahawks can get to the quarterback. That's what is putting them and leaving them in that second tier in the NFC. The Rams, oh boy. They got Stafford back. They'll have Aaron Donald back. But Jalen Ramsey's gone. Bobby Wagner's gone. And Cooper Kupp's dealing with injuries. To me, they are, well, there's no such thing as a 500 team. I can see them being 7-9. They could be 7-10. Still getting used to that. 7-10. They could be 6-11. They're going to have to probably be blowing it up soon. Can they be competitive? I don't know. I think it's going to be a long season for the Rams. I do. The Cardinals could be one of the worst teams in the league. They may be the very worst team in the league. Kyler Murray is going to miss the start of the season, and you just look at the talent that's left. Hopkins is gone. And there's a lot of things we could say about Hopkins. Green is retired. JJ Watt is retired, and it's still better than people thought. I still thought he was playing at a high level last year, and he was overall healthy. Zach Allen's gone. There's not much on this roster. There's Budda Baker, and then they traded Isaiah Simmons. Wow. Actually, I like that move by the Giants, picking up Isaiah Simmons, not for much. He's still very talented. He's still very young. Maybe a change of scenery will help him, but I was surprised they gave up on him for just about nothing in return. Wow. The North, I like the Lions. I really do like the Lions. I think people maybe are getting a little too excited about the Lions because Jared Goff's an inconsistent quarterback. And it comes down to the end of the day about your quarterback. He can be very good or he can be very off. I don't think he's the long-term answer there. I know Campbell likes him. But the Lions, I feel, are the best all-around team. And they have something there. I really think they have something there. And Dan Campbell has something there. And this year, I think they are going to make the leap to being a playoff team. They have their edge rusher, right? They got Aiden Hutchinson. He had an excellent rookie season. And they are adding more talent. I think the players are buying into their coach and the culture and the system that they've put in there. The Vikings are going in the wrong direction. They could sneak in as a playoff team. Kirk Cousins actually statistically had a very good year, but Dalvin Cook's gone. I didn't even mention that with the Jets. I thought that was one excellent addition for the Jets, adding him in as they did. Just to give Aaron Rodgers a running back of that caliber. Well, he's gone, and Zadarius Smith is gone. They still have good players on the roster. I mean, Justin Jefferson, they got Hawkinson, but they've lost talent. And I believe the Lions are going to jump them. The Packers and Bears. I think the Bears will end up in third place. Justin Fields, he just reminds me so much of Lamar Jackson. He's as dynamic as it could be on offense. But can he get it done with his arm? And is that kind of style of play sustainable? Isn't that a great question? Can you keep that up? The thing about Fields is he's still very young, and he has time to develop. Let's see if he can. And they've added some more talent on the roster, and the Bears should be better. Now for the Packers, Jordan Love looked decent in the time that he played last year, but I'm not sold on him. Okay, I believe for me this is the first time where we're really going to see the Packers fall down to the bottom of the division in the North since I've been following football. Because when I start watching football, Brett Favre was already established and he was winning MVPs, and then you got Aaron Rodgers. I don't think Jordan Love is a Hall of Fame quarterback or a future Hall of Fame quarterback or has that potential. I don't think the torch has been passed on. Not that Aaron Rodgers would pass a torch on to Jordan Love. But I don't believe that we're just entering the next era of great quarterback play for the Packers. I mean, do you really think so? It's just not a very good roster. There's some talent on there. It's not like we're talking about the Cardinals. There's still some players on there. I expect it to be a difficult season for Green Bay. And even if you look at the schedule makers tell you that it's going to be different. Because when the Packers were good under Rodgers, and this was one of the changes in the league, you start having the late kickoff. You had the America's Game of the Week, the 1:25 kickoff. Here in the Pacific, it would be a 3:30 in Green Bay. Most of the games are shifted back to that 10 a.m. time here, 12 o'clock kick in Green Bay, Lambeau time. So that's the indication the league expects the Packers to be average, if not bad. There's only one, maybe two teams that come out of the North. In the South, I think the South is only a one team. Okay, and I don't even like that team that much, but it's the Saints. Perhaps a fresh start, a new team will do Derek Carr some good. I like Carr, but he's been inconsistent. He's had a good career, not a great career, but Derek Carr has been inconsistent with the Raiders, and I don't think he's necessarily had, the best coaching. And there has been a lot of turnover there over the years. What he gets is a team with a good defense. He has Michael Thomas at receiver. You got Jimmy Graham there again. Alvin Kamara will eventually come back. I'd take the Saints as probably the weakest division winner. I think they have enough to win the division, take 5, if not 6 games in the division. The Buccaneers, they have Baker Mayfield at quarterback. I'm sorry. He's only really had one good year. The Falcons, Desmond Ridder is going to be their starter now, and he didn't play much last year. It's very, very small sample size to not enough to really come to any kind of conclusion on him or make really any kind of decision or judgment of any type. They're rebuilding. And then finally the Panthers are rebuilding as well with a rookie quarterback. They have a ways to go as well, and it should be the Saints division. And you actually have the Panthers and Falcons. We'll preview that. Panthers, Falcons to start off. That'll be Bryce Young's first game. NFC playoff teams. I'm taking the Eagles, 49ers, Lions, Saints, Wild Cards, Seahawks, Cowboys, and Giants. So the only difference is that the Saints and Lions are in, the Buccaneers and Vikings are most likely out. If you had to make me pick a Super Bowl winner, for the conference championship games, again, people will laugh. I'm going to say Chiefs. You know what? I'm going to change that. I'm going to go Bengals and Jets in the conference championship game. The Chiefs will miss the championship game for the first time since Mahomes has been the starter. It's a tall task to keep going back over and over and over again. Would it surprise me if the Chiefs got in? Not at all. The Chiefs could very well get back to the Super Bowl and repeat. They could. If anyone could, Mahomes and Andy Reid could. But I am going to say Bengals and Jets. And then I see a repeat in the NFC. Yeah, this is all just assuming everyone's going to be healthy. We can't predict injuries. I'm going to say 49ers and Eagles. And I'm going to say the Super Bowl will be the Eagles and the Jets, with the Eagles winning. That is my pick right now. Eagles winning the Super Bowl. Now, at almost the 45-minute mark, let's do some Week 1 picks really quick here. The opening game, Chiefs and Lions. Well, I would say the Chiefs easily, but that may not be the case. Travis Kelce's questionable, and is Chris Jones really going to play tomorrow night? Is he going to sign between now and then and play? No, but I'm still going to take the Chiefs because they have Patrick Mahomes. And you say if it just comes down to quarterbacks, it's not all the quarterbacks. But considering who it is, it's Patrick Mahomes, who could go down as the greatest quarterback of all time. At least one of the best. Some people already do consider him one of the very best quarterbacks of all time. Patrick Mahomes and Arrowhead, I like him, and if you're just going to say who's going to make the mistake in this game, it's going to be Goff. I think the Lions can make this competitive. They can keep it close. Maybe at halftime, even early into the middle of the third quarter, and then Chiefs are just going to have too much. And it's one of those games for the Lions. This is a great game for them because you'll say to them, okay, well, how good are we? It's a test right out of the gate against the Chiefs on the road. They'll see what they're made of. We'll see what kind of team they have. But I like the Chiefs. In tomorrow's opener, Falcons and Panthers, I could see that game going either way on Sunday. But I will take the Falcons at home. I'll go with the home team. Bengals at Browns. Yeah, and this will tell you a lot about the Browns right away. Where is Deshaun Watson at? Is he going to be more like the Watson from the past? And it's understandable that it took him some time last year to get back into, you could say, the swing of things, into any kind of rhythm after being out for over a year and a half. The 11 games. You're not suspended for 10 games. You're not suspended for 12 games. We're going to suspend you for 11 games. I'm laughing on that. But I'm going to take the Bengals. I mean, I think the Bengals will be in the championship game, and I'm taking Joe Burrow in that offense. Jaguars at Colts. Jaguars. They got the better quarterback. They got the better team against a rookie quarterback. I don't think that's a hard one. Buccaneers at Vikings. Vikings at home. Nothing difficult about that one to me. It's not like the Buccaneers are just void of talent. They have talent. They're not a garbage team, but since Todd Bowles has taken over, they haven't been the same either. Titans at Saints. Titans maybe I'll keep this one close, but I do like the Saints in the Superdome, and I want to see a new stadium in New Orleans. I hate watching games at the Superdome. They put me to sleep. To me, there's nothing worse than an afternoon or evening game in the Superdome. And this comes from someone, again, who used to watch the games in the Superdome every year. 49ers used to be in all these domes. This was their division. It was the Saints, the Rams, and the Falcons. And they're all inside in the domes. It's crazy thinking about that now, but I hate dome football and New Orleans football. Sorry. Nothing personal against the team or the city. 49ers and Steelers. Well, this is the one that means more to me, that the 49ers start off on the road, and generally they have not played well on the road against inferior teams the last two seasons. They almost copped it against the Lions 2021, and they lost to the Bears last year, and that was a game that cost them perhaps home field advantage. There were two games on the schedule that were that way early in the season, Bears and Broncos on the road. The 49ers get off to slow starts. The good news is they did sign Nick Bosa. We don't know if George Kittle's playing in the game. And this is a great test for the Steelers. They will know how good Pickett looks and how much he has improved. He's going against a ferocious, fierce defensive line. And how good is Brock Purdy going to look, too? He looked like himself in preseason, but it was only preseason. He was throwing short and intermediate passes, and that was it. I'm going to pick the 49ers, but I think it's going to be a very close game. And it would not surprise me if the Steelers upset, based off what I just said. But the 49ers have the better team, and as long as they play a clean game, they should win. But what do I enjoy about this too? Nick Bosa and TJ Watt. That's going to be fun. Cardinals at Washington Commanders. I wish I was still saying the Redskins. I do. Commanders. What a terrible name. I'm going to go Commanders. But an ugly game. Until we talk about uniforms, that is ugly game. Texans at Ravens. That's the last of the morning games. Ravens. Ravens should win that one handily against a young Texans team. D'Amico Ryan's first game as coach. And I have to say, too, this is the week of debuts for a number of quarterbacks who have changed homes. We talk about Aaron Rodgers, then there's Derek Carr. I mean, it feels like Russell Wilson starting all over again. It really does. But I'll get back to that in a moment, actually, because that's almost the next game on our schedule. Getting ahead of myself here. Packers at Bears. 125 start here. That's a mid-afternoon game in Chicago. I'll take the Bears. It feels like there's a lot of momentum right now, a lot of excitement with the Bears. They won the home opener last year. It was a rainy game. I think the Bears will win by a touchdown. That's what I'll go with. And then when we're talking about debuts, Jimmy Garoppolo, and I feel like Russell Wilson is starting all over with the Broncos now that he has Sean Payton. I'm very intrigued by this game. Again, I've been watching Jimmy Garoppolo all those years, and I am excited to see how he does. I'm somewhere in between against. I am somewhere in between with Garoppolo. I loved him his first season. After that, and he got injured at the start of the 2018 season, he was never the same. He lost his confidence. He was more of like a gunslinger before he got injured in 2018, and I really liked his play. I mean, he was committed. He believed in what he was doing. Even when he made mistakes, he was committed to that pass down the field. It was not the same Garoppolo to me after that. And he never got his mobility all the way back either. That was another thing. And then Russell Wilson. This is in Denver. I like the Broncos. I don't think they're going to run away with it because they just don't have that great of a roster. And I'm just so interested to see how Garoppolo does outside of San Francisco. He's not with Kyle Shanahan anymore. And he's got a coach that believes in him. He does. He does have talent. But what is he going to do now when he doesn't have the greatest offensive line and a great defense backing him up? He's still going to, this is the game with the two best-looking quarterbacks in football, right? The pretty boys, Garoppolo and Russell Wilson. I'm going Broncos. Eagles at Patriots. It's kind of an interesting one. Late start there, too, on CBS. Didn't even talk about the games with the announcers yet. Hardly got into uniforms. I mean, we could have a 3-hour show. We could talking about all these different areas. I like the Eagles. I just feel like Patriots are just an average football team. That's a game they should certainly win by, let's say, 2 scores. Dolphins and Chargers. This is the one I wish that was the evening game on NBC. I think you're going to see fireworks. I think there's going to be a lot of scoring. This is going to be a fun game. In some ways, I think it's the most fun game week 1. Because these two teams are going to put it up. They are going to drive the ball down the field. They are going to light it up. On the turf, too, in Los Angeles. Herbert and Tua. Too bad. I feel like the NFL whiffed on that one. Rams at Seahawks. Cooper Kupp sounds like he's not going to play. And it's going to be up in Seattle. It's going to be crazy up there. Oh, I think the Seahawks could potentially blow the Rams out in this one. I see even though I don't think the Seahawks are the best team in the league or anything, but they are a playoff team, and the Rams, there's just, again, I'd say there's not a lot there. They're not as bottom of the conference team, but considering they're the inferior team and they're going to be playing up Seattle, yeah, look out. And of course, the NFL could not resist a Cowboys-Giants Sunday night football game. I'm just shocked it's not in Dallas. I mean, how could they pass up on an opportunity to have a game in Big D and Jerry's World to start off? Oh, yeah, because they did that last year. Tom Brady, the Buccaneers, went in there and beat the Cowboys. They can't do that. But the Cowboys get the Sunday night game, kickoff game, primetime game 2 years in a row. It's in New York, so that makes it a little more interesting. I would love to see a Giants upset, but I feel the Cowboys will win this one by a touchdown. Go in New York and win. And how about this? The Monday night game that wraps it up, and the crew in New York is going to have to work fast as they do to get the field ready. And from what I know is, I believe I heard they're not going to use the midfield NFL logo anymore. They're actually going to have the team logos. Is that right? I would love to confirm that. So they're going to have a lot of work turning that field around from Giants to Jets, meaning midfield logo, end zones. They filled the end zones in New York, and then all around the stadium. Big game for the Jets. And Aaron Rodgers, his debut, and it's against the Bills. I mean, this is, though, if you're just taking the two teams, the best matchup of the week. And I've been a critic of Joe Buck. I'm not so much a critic of Joe Buck. I'm glad that Joe Buck and Troy Aikman have this game. It feels like a playoff preview. It feels like a tone-setting game. I mean, you don't overreact to Week 1 games. That's the thing. You don't overreact to them, but you can learn things. And if the Jets can win this first game, that's making a statement, and I think it is a tone-setting game for the season. Doesn't mean everything. Could just be one good game. But I like the Jets, and we already know they're wearing the turn-back uniforms for this game, Week 1. I like it in a tight, close game. Rodgers versus Allen. They're both playoff teams as far as I'm concerned, and I'm really looking forward to it. So if you ask me, I'd say the best two games of the week are the AFC showdowns, actually. The Dolphins and I see LAC, and I'm almost about to say Clippers. The Dolphins and Chargers, and then you got the Bills and the Jets. Third one I would rank would be Cowboys and Giants. No good NFC matchups, but the truth is there just are not a whole lot of good NFC teams. So thrilled to be starting off and kicking off tomorrow. We're going to come back and we're going to do a post-Week 1 show sometime. It may be later in the week, a wrap-up, depending on what's going on. I'm also going to do a 49er preview as well, a separate 49er preview. There's another one that's on the way it's a summary that's already been recorded of the most memorable Week 1 49er games from opening weeks for the last 25 years or so. 25 plus seasons, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Well, this should be a fun season. We're going to continue to do uniform shows. We're going to talk about, hopefully, stadiums, ranking the stadiums. I just did a show as well on the announcers, ranking the best announcing teams in the league also. I mean, there's so many areas you can go into. I mean, we didn't even talk about the coaches that much. It is a different time. It is a different season, and there's so many young quarterbacks in the league. And now that we're seeing the changes at running back, I mean, it really comes down to your quarterbacks, your offensive line, your receivers, and then getting to your quarterback. Have those athletic players and speed rushers, or if you have the power guys who can get to the quarterback. But with all this said, with this preview is, who's going to stay healthy? who's going to stay healthy through the season, who's going to be smart, and who's going to surprise us. As there will probably be a team or two that's going to surprise us. And who's going to be the second-year players who really take a leap? Who's going to be the rookie players who have outstanding years? We're going to kick it off tomorrow on NBC. It's going to be not Al Michaels. I almost said that. Starting to say it. Mike Tirico, Chris Collinsworth, and the crew. We're ready.